Hey, given the scheduling conflict of Thursday, what I thought I'd actually do is, in addition to meeting with you as you lead up to the competition, I thought it would be a good idea for me to actually record some of my thoughts on YouTube. That way, you can have kind of a permanent record of what I said, and we can actually have kind of a running dialogue about my ideas and about your ideas that does not necessarily require that we be in the same room at the same time. So what I'm going to do in this video is just focus really quickly on two things. One is your approach to the event, and two is your approach to the questions that you have to study, right? And then we'll build on that. So the first thing is your approach to the event. I know that this is Randallstown High. I know this is your first time actually participating in this event at such a high level. And there's a tendency to actually be nervous. Now, being nervous is actually part of the process. You're going to be nervous. It's okay. It's fine. But one of the things that I want you to remember as you're studying, as you're preparing, is that you are supposed to be there. You deserve to be there. And you shouldn't just be happy to show up. Like, wow, we got this far and, let's just kind of sort of make a go at it. No, that's not your job. Your job, you represent yourselves, you represent your family, you represent people like me who's put time and effort into you. You represent your teacher, you represent your principal, you represent your school. So work hard and do your best and work with the idea that you plan on winning, right? Work on the idea that you plan on winning. I think, and I talked about this with one of your team members on Thursday, that there is at least one way in which your team has an advantage over most of the other schools you'll likely be competing against. And I think that that advantage, if you play it right, you should be able to work. You should be able to do tremendous work. And if you work on the values of group initiative, group cooperation, and group loyalty, that is, if you don't place any individual in your team above the group, if you don't place any member of your team below the group, and you all work hard, I think you'll do wonderful things, and it'll have all types of benefits that you can't even possibly imagine, going forward. Now, with that said, what's the substance? And the substance actually relates to your advantage. What I believe is your advantage is, and I tried to emphasize this a little bit when I was with you guys when you competed a little bit ago, is that you have an appreciation for American history and American politics because of you guys' backgrounds that most people don't have, or most people I assume will be competing against you, right? So when you look at the Constitution, you look at the Constitution with a different set of eyes. What do I mean? Most of you are African American, and there are a number of women on the team as well, I believe. What that means is that you can look at the Constitution and see gaps where other people can't necessarily see them. And I think that you should emphasize that in your study, right? So in your study, in your speech, your goal is to write your speech, but you want to have enough mastery of the subject so that when people are asking you questions, you'll be able to think on your feet and be natural in responding to them. I think the best way to do that is to actually put yourself and think about your own personal experience and the experience of people like you into your studies, right? So I know that that this isn't that attention spans for YouTube are really, really small. So I'm gonna try to keep this under. It's 4:25 now. I'm gonna try to keep this under like 6 minutes. So this is the first thing I want you guys to do. The first question is about, I don't have it in front of me, but it deals with Constitution and democracy. And it refers, I believe, to the Virginia Bill of Rights. The first thing I want you guys to do when you go home is I want you to look at the Virginia Bill of Rights. For those of you who have access to the internet, if you just do a Google search for Virginia Bill of Rights, the rights will actually pop up on the page. And I want you to go through each of them. Go through each of them, write down like a sentence or two in plain language explaining what they mean. first thing you do, because the first thing you want to do is like figure out what the stuff means in language you can understand. Then the second thing I want you to do, right, and this is really important. Second thing I want you to do is read each of those statements and think about the time period of 1776 when it's written. When they talk about freedom, when they talk about men, are they talking about you? If you were there in 1776, would you have been a part of that document, right? Think about how much income your parents have. You know, do your parents have to work to provide you with clothes, to provide you with shelter, to provide you with food, right? If your parents work for someone else, that means we can assume they're not independently wealthy. If they're not independently wealthy, are they in that document, right? I think looking at that document and approaching all of the text from that standpoint will really, really enable you to take a really personal approach to the speeches you write, and then will really enable you to thrive when it comes to question and answers, because everybody else is going to be reading the text, and they're going to be reading that text, and that they're not going to be thinking about anything else other than what's in that text, right? What's in the book you guys are given. And if you look carefully at the book, unit 2, which is the unit I'm responsible for helping you guys out, it has maybe a paragraph that talks about slavery. It doesn't talk about the treatment of women at all, and it doesn't talk about disparities of wealth at all. So if you bring that to the table and you think about it carefully, you automatically have an advantage over those teams that just focus purely on the text alone. On that note, I'm hitting 7 minutes. You have any questions, respond to this comment and then send them to Mr. Oler, and Mr. Oler has my email. Thank you. I'll see you guys Thursday.